Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Only Stupid Answers. My name is DJ Wooldridge, and we are here today to talk about The Mandalorian Season 2, Episode 4. And with me, I have a very special guest, Andres Cabrera. Andres, introduce yourself to the boys and girls at home today.
What is up, guys? I am Andres. I am a Star Wars fan, first of all, a writer for Geeks of Color. I have my YouTube channel called First Cut, where I also have a Star Wars show called Walk the Block with Emma Fife. You can check that out over there. Talk about movies, TV shows, all that jazz.
I'm so thankful that you were able to hop on this discussion with me because you're one of the biggest Star Wars fans I know. And so you'll be able to bring the knowledge that I can't because I'm a casual enjoyer of the franchise, like I think a majority of the people on the planet. Today we are talking about The Mandalorian Season 2, Episode 4, The Siege. The Mandalorian rejoins old allies for a new mission. And this episode was actually directed by Carl Weathers, the actor who plays Greef Karga, and is written by Jon Favreau, who I believe has written every episode this season. In this episode, we return to a classic location from the first season, which is Navarro, and Mando reunites with Greef Karga, Cara Dune, and Mythrol. What did you think about the return of these characters?
A lot of fun. Carl Weathers is just having a blast the whole time. He did in the first season. He was literally having so much fun. He said it so much in the gallery, and he directed it, which seems like he got to be just... I could see Carl Weathers just bringing 100% energy, him in full costume, directing, because he was in full costume the whole time. So I was like, is he really going behind the camera and in front of the camera? He probably is.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see behind the scenes of this episode because I think it's probably a lot of fun of him directing and just bringing 100%, just being a complete a-hole to Blue Homie. I forget his name.
Mythrol. I had to look it up too. He's Fish Boy in my brain.
Yeah, just completely just being a mean old dude to Mythrol, just having a blast, just throwing insults left and right. I thought it was a lot of fun. Obviously, the info drop is the one that just kind of shook me to my core.
Yeah.
Where I was like, oh my God, they're doing it. I even tweeted it out. A lot of people didn't get what I was saying, but later on we can talk about it. But I was like, they're doing the thing that I thought they were going to do in season 1 as a joke. I was like, maybe they'll do this. But sure enough, they're doing it.
They're doing it. Yeah, we'll get there. And shout out to Mythrol, who's played by Horatio Sands. I believe the last we saw him was in the pilot, right? The very first episode.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
So he's returning no longer in Carbonite. I don't know if his life's improved that much since then, but he's there. And I think I do have a question from the Discord because when they go there, the kind of like their bar, their cantina situation, it looks like it's been turned into a school, which was cool. And Baby Yoda spends like 10 seconds in the school. We see about 10 seconds of him in the school. And we have a question in the Discord from Nathan the Man. Did anyone get jealous of Baby Yoda eating the macaroons? I was wondering when I saw the little blue cookies, I'm like, that's got to be shit you can get at Star Wars Galaxy's Edge.
I thought it was like space Oreos. It looked like teal Oreos, but then when he started chewing on it, I was like, those are macaroons. Like it felt like someone like either made those on set or just bought them somewhere. It's one of those world colliding moments where it's like, wait a minute,
hold on
macaroons?
It's
space
like
macaroons?
It's a little bit like Bill Burr in the episode last season where it's like, wait, is Boston in space? And then you're like, well, I mean, the people have British accents. It shouldn't matter, but because we've never heard it before, it's like, wait a second. I do like that this season they're experimenting more with, like, we all know Baby Yoda's cute, but what if, like most babies, he's also a little gross. And so like when he's like vomiting on himself or like eating stuff, I'm like, I appreciate this.
Yes. But I was also going to mention macaroons, unborn frog people. Which one? No. I'm like, I'll take the space macaroons.
Yes.
Good. You're improving your palate, Baby Yoda.
No more genocide. I feel like that was kind of like in the last episode when he's like looking at the baby frog. It's like, maybe I shouldn't eat eggs. Like it felt like a lesson was learned.
I felt like it was like a coming to the altar moment for him where he's like, oh my God, I ate actual sentient beings. I feel so bad. I'm sorry. And he was like apologizing to it. So.
The other thing with the reintroduction of Greef Karga and Cara Dune, I gotta say that for me, this show kind of lives or dies based on the supporting cast that shows up. I think giving Mando people to bounce off of elevates the show. In this episode, and similar to the last time we saw these characters, which was the season finale, it's like, oh, this is a TV show. You know what I mean? Like, these are characters that have personalities that we can do things with. And I love Grief on just watching. If I were to watch the show in a vacuum, I think after this episode, I would be like, Cara Dune is my favorite character in the show. She gets a kick-ass action sequence at the top. Her perspective is cool. The problem, and we should touch on it briefly, in the Discord chat, there was a lot of conversation about it, is the actress Gina Carano, who plays Cara Dune, has courted controversy online and done the classic, very frustrating thing of like, instead of just like downplaying it, like tripled down on stuff. It's like, you could just back off. Like, we could just whatever. Do you have thoughts on for those that don't know? I should give some background. And please correct me if I miss a beat. But essentially, Gina Carano presented that she did not understand why people put their genders online, which is usually a sign of, if you're not part of the transgender community, a sign of solidarity with that community, and kind of trying to normalize that. And when people called her out on it, it was a weird, like, she apologized, but then also kept doing it and like trying to bother people more. And apparently this has escalated into she's posting stuff about election conspiracies and all this stuff, which has kind of affected people's perception of her and the character. Do you have thoughts on this whole controversy?
Yeah, so my thing is this. It's difficult. I have my co-host, my buddy RB3, that you know of. I think you brought him on for a few episodes.
Yep.
Beforehand, and he actually is completely not watching the show, simply based off Gina Carano. And him and I have similar views on actually going out of our way to not support something. It's a little bit more difficult for me, considering that I am the Star Wars guy of the team, of the group, and I have the Star Wars show of the team for my channel. So it's always one of those things where I try to see the balance of my perspective, which is what I told him is, considering, if I'm being completely honest and blunt, what Pedro Pascal means to me personally, considering I grew up in an era where I didn't see any Latino representation whatsoever, and being someone who's a Latino and seeing a Latino representation in Star Wars, which is my favorite medium of all time, it's one of those things where it means so much more to me that the lead character happens to be a very outspoken, pro-immigrant, pro-Latino, upfront badass in this. Like, he's a badass. Like, it makes it even better that he happens to be like a straight up badass, cool character. Same with, Poe and Cassian and all these great Latino characters. It means a lot to me, right? So it's hard for me to be like, I'm not going to keep watching, but at the same time, I can't lie, DJ. These last few weeks especially have been even worse because it did start with the trans stuff, but then she's liking posts that are like comparing Black Lives Matter to like criminals and terrorists and like really gnarly stuff that's reaching a little bit beyond political perspective, which is what I see a lot of people being like, oh, let her have her political point of view. It's reaching a little more than that. It's starting to become slightly too much.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I know literally just a couple days ago, as of this recording, people have been kind of dunking on Kurt Russell a little bit because he made a point like, I don't think actors should post their political opinions. And with this situation, it's like, yeah, maybe, you know what? Maybe he's right though. Like, maybe, like, I get that there's the two sides. Like, sometimes it's positive stuff, but like, maybe in the long run of it, maybe we shouldn't care about celebrities' opinions, and then maybe we wouldn't elect them president. You know what I mean? I don't know what the solution is, but it does make it's tough because it's a character I enjoy watching.
Sure.
That I'm now taken out of the experience. And I know at the time there were like, immediately people were like, fire, and it's like, well, I don't know if you know how TV's produced, but like that episode's probably been in the can for a while now. But I do think with the way we end her character, like it ends with Why they're not the rebel anymore. The X-wing fighter, played by Paul Soon-Hyung Lee, like giving her like a little medallion, and it's like, oh, she could just go away now. We don't have to. She just doesn't. She's off flying an X-wing somewhere. Maybe she'll show up in a book or something. But we'll move on.
I took that the complete opposite. I was like, now she gets her own show.
Oh shit. Which again,
I was like, no, please don't.
If it was just the character in a vacuum, I would be interested in that. But it's not, and it is tricky because I mean, we work in this town. We both worked with people whose opinions we probably don't agree with, and our opinions are probably shitty. Should people lose their job for that? I do think you make a very good point that in a situation like this, it's not that the Star Wars franchise or anybody working on Star Wars is hurting for money, but it's not just her. It's Pedro Pascal, it's Jon Favreau, it's the crew members, it's the other, you know what I mean? It's the support. It's a lot of people whose jobs should not necessarily be impacted by this one person that is courting controversy.
Yeah, that's been my thing too. It's definitely one of those moments where it's difficult to balance, but I don't necessarily criticize people, again, like RB3, who has just completely refused to watch and support anything while she's involved. Because it has been a bit much. Like you said, again, it's not necessarily, in my opinion, if I'm being honest, political point of views. It's more the trans thing. Like that's not a political thing, man. Like you don't have to be, go against trans people to prove a political point, or Black Lives Matter as well. I still don't feel like that's necessarily taking a political side. That's just being like, hey, Black Lives Matter. And stuff like that has been very detrimental to her reputation as a whole.
Yeah. So moving on to the kind of the big show-stopping number is the siege itself. There's a Empire base, an old outdated Empire base that like Grief seems pretty convinced is not very well staffed, and we learned it's a little bit better staffed than he anticipated, and it leads to some cool action sequences. And something that excited me is that I feel like sometimes the Mandalorian will introduce a premise, and then that's it. It's just this is what we're doing, and then they do it, and it doesn't evolve or change in interesting ways. I liked the way that this escalated from just the normal siege to the revelation to the even bigger action chase sequence. But let's get into that revelation. They go to a room. We see the scientist that was working on Baby Yoda, a little hologram of him, and we see what looks to be maybe vats of clones. I think they even mention cloning. And then there's mention of M counts, which we've got in the Discord. Boiler Huff says, what are your thoughts on M counts? Sly of them to try and slip that by like that. Tell me your thoughts about what they found in this facility?
Oh, I lost it completely. I was like, they're doing it. They're actually doing it. That's literally what I tweeted out. They're bringing it back. It's making a comeback, full-blown comeback. Don't call it a comeback. It's the midichlorians. They're back in action, popping up the sunglasses, getting on their motorcycle, revving up the engine, coming right back into the Star Wars universe like a boss. Midichlorians are back. It blew my mind because if last season I was on a show called Jedi Council, and I said this ridiculous, insane theory of like, what if this whole thing has to do with cloning somehow? And it isn't necessarily true. This isn't necessarily true as far as Baby Yoda being a Yoda clone. Yeah. But it could be now that we see cloning is real, or cloning as a part of the show, I mean. Yeah. So now I said, what if they cloned Yoda to get his midichlorians? Because we all know from the very famous movie, The Phantom Menace, Yoda has a very high midichlorian count. The only person higher than him is Anakin. And it kind of blew my mind because I said for years they've been trying to get away from midichlorians, but now they're saying, hold on. He said they're doing a blood transfusion to get the midichlorians into their systems, but it's not working yet. So it seems like Gideon is literally trying to transfer force powers using Baby Yoda's blood through a blood transfusion experimentation to get those high midichlorian counts, which is it blew my mind inside the Star Wars universe, because that's something that Star Wars has been actively trying to get away from since Phantom Menace, which is like 20 years ago. Yeah. It's insane that they're doing Force science experiments inside the Star Wars universe, but that's kind of what it is. I don't know if you had any other thoughts, but I was like, they're transferring midichlorians from the bloodstream of Baby Yoda? What?
Yeah, I think you're right. And we talked a little bit about this before we started recording, but I like Star Wars' dedication to not letting things go. Like Jar Jar Binks showed up in episodes of Clone Wars. You know what I mean? Like we're not like the little droids. Like, it's just one of those, like, these might not be popular, but we're not. It's canon. It matters. And so my ears also picked up with M counts. I think my brain went to, I think that your suggestion that Gideon is trying to possibly make for soldiers, because at the end shot he's seeing what looks like shiny new armor. I think that's a really solid theory. My brain went to, because when was the last time we saw cloning factor big into Star Wars? It was Palpatine in Rise of Skywalker. So I was wondering if maybe this was like you remember in episode 2 Attack of the Clones, where they like bring up the hologram of the Death Star and it's like, it's coming. This felt like a version of that, of like Rise of Skywalker, Palpatine, it's happening. But it's probably Force soldiers.
Well, yeah, because to me, I think Gideon is trying to take the blood of Baby Yoda to try and like steal. This is like this weird like mutant thing, right? It's almost like an X-Men moment where you're trying to get the X gene or something so that you can steal powers, or like a Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. moment with Sky. Sorry, I'm making these bizarre references.
No, I'm with you on all of them.
Okay. But that moment of like, if I take your blood, can I take your power? Same in Heroes too. They do it in Heroes. Another reference that no one gets except for you.
No, I'm with you. I watched all those shows. I'm with you.
There you go. But my thing is like, oh, he's transferring Force powers? Like, that's the thing that kind of blew my mind. I was like, by midichlorians, he means like Force powers. Yeah. Which is something that's never been done inside the Star Wars universe, at least not that I know of, unless it's been in some novel that I haven't read. But either way, that's kind of insane to think that he's trying to steal Baby Yoda's powers by taking his midichlorian count from his bloodstream.
And it's, I think, what lends some credence to that theory is, he's already running around with the Darksaber. So it's like, this is clearly somebody that cares about that. Gideon is clearly somebody that cares about that sort of thing. Help me, because you and I both looked at, we tried to see if we could see what was in the tanks, and it wasn't distinct enough for us. The other thing that maybe you heard clearly, and I'll go back and re-listen to it at some point, when the scientist was talking about it, it seemed like he was talking about Baby Yoda and then some other subject. Like, we're getting blood from Baby Yoda, and then we're going to have to return to this other subject. Mm-hmm. If the other subject is not Baby Yoda, again, for me, I assumed the other subject's Palpatine, but then he's super dead. He's super dead at that point. Who could that subject be? Could it be like another? We're already building towards Ahsoka. Could it be another character pulled from the canon?
See, the way I took that, and I did go back and like rewind it and watch it again because I needed that, 45-second info dump that he gave us. I took it as like a new character we're gonna meet, someone that Gideon has as like maybe either an enforcer or his specialist or whatever it is, as far as his like super warrior guy who maybe he's given blood transfusions to, and it's just not working so far. As far as the people in the tanks, I thought it was just failed experiments, maybe different species, maybe like, I don't know, a human, a Rhodian, and some other species that he's trying to experiment with to see if it changes at all when it comes to the blood. But you're right. I did notice that he did say the other subject isn't responding to the blood transfusion, which means he's specifically using it towards giving powers to a person or someone.
Interesting. Danny in the chat asked a question that did occur to me as you were saying that. Speaking of the prequels, my favorite part of the prequels, could they have Maul? And correct me if I'm wrong, didn't Maul die in Rebels?
He did. He's pretty dead right now. Yeah.
He's come back though. He's been down before and he's come back.
Yeah. I actually, I wouldn't be surprised to see Maul if they do, if in the casting show, or in the if they do a Lando or a Han Solo show.
Yeah.
Because he's not dead at that time, but I don't know if he's making a double comeback as far as like being dead and coming back. And now that he's like, all right, now he's finally dead, but now he's coming back again. I think that'd be a bit much. So I don't think it's Maul.
You're probably right. Wishful thinking. Danny and I can still hold out hope, but I think you're probably right. Yeah. So with that in mind, where do you think we have 4 more episodes left? We know we're building towards meeting Ahsoka, which I'm going to assume is the last episode. I'm assuming they're going to hold that card until literally the very end. Yeah, I don't think that's going to be next episode with the way this show likes to withhold stuff. Where do you think we go from here?
I think we go. It's hard to predict, right?
Yeah.
I think what's going to happen is Gideon is going to be able to. I don't know what he's doing as far as his force using the super mech armor, thing at the end. It looks like it's just super mechs. I don't know what else to call them.
Yeah.
I think he'll use that as a way to like maybe attack Ahsoka and Mando at the end of the episode or in the finale or something like that. I could see a lightsaber fight between Ahsoka and Gideon at the end, with the Darksaber and with obviously Ahsoka Tano's sabers. I see that as like a cool little finale, a lightsaber battle. I also see a potential foil that now has weird Frankenstein midichlorian powers coming in maybe the following season.
Yeah.
Some sort of Frankenstein force user with the Baby Yoda's midichlorians coming into effect. That's kind of what I see.
I will say you kind of just blew my mind a little bit when you called the suits mechs. It's like that's one thing Star Wars has never done is mechs, and that would be super cool. I'd be like way into that. Yeah. I'm also thinking I like all those suggestions. I also last episode we had Bo-Katan talking about how she wants the Darksaber, and again, you're significantly more versed in Rebels and Clone Wars. I just have what I've picked up through the fanboy ether, talking about how like she wants the Darksaber because if I recall, the Darksaber is like that's if you want to rule Mandalore, that's a good thing to have. I feel like the show. That episode in particular was like, hey, we're dealing with the child stuff, but this is laying groundwork for like season 3 and beyond. I feel like we're building towards possibly Mando getting the Darksaber and maybe returning to Mandalore. What do you think?
That's definitely an option as well, for sure. I mean, my thing is like with this episode, I was like completely taken with the midichlorians that I completely forgot about everything else on Mandalore. Yeah. That absolutely makes sense considering last episode of what we got was a Mandalore info dump as far as like, what's the planet? What does it look like? What happened to it? He said it was cursed. So we know something went down. What's the purge? We haven't seen the purge yet necessarily in flashbacks or anything like that. So we will see some sort of like maybe return to Mandalore or restoration of Mandalore, maybe with Death Watch and with Bo-Katan. Yeah. So maybe that's kind of a lead up as well. Maybe it'll be Mando having to decide between the Armorer and his clan and Bo-Katan and her clan as like a finale type decision-making situation.
I really appreciate you coming on the show and having this discussion with me. It was great to unpack it. Everybody, let me know in the comments what you thought about this episode, what you think about M counts, what you think Moff Gideon's up to, how long will Baby Yoda be a baby, and did he commit genocide? Let us know in the chats. Please please subscribe, please share, all that jazz. On the rest, remind the kids at home where they can find you and what you are up to.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Squad Leader Ace, on Instagram at Squad Leader Ace as well. You can also find me on First Cut, my YouTube channel with RB3 and Sabrina. It is called First Cut TMO on social media, but First Cut on the YouTube channel as well, where we can talk about all these movies, as well as Sabak the Block on First Cut, which we will be talking about this episode as well with Emma 5. So go check it out.
Please go check all that out. Go support all of that. Wonderful stuff. You can follow me at DJ Talks Trash. There's new podcast episodes of Only Stupid Answers on Monday, and the Only Stupid Answers show is returning to Patreon with my co-host, Roxy Stryer. We're going to be talking about all the stuff you love and answering any questions you have about movies, TV shows, comics, and whatever the hell else we like to talk about. You can check that out at patreon.com/OSTAN. youtube.com/onlystupid answers. And you can find out more about this show at Only Stupid Answers everywhere that matters. But on Twitter, you're going to want to yank the vowels out of stupid. That is it for us. Stay tuned for more reviews like this, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.